it's very difficult to figure out what the problem, other than to attribute it to people being deliberately stupid. Have I ever played the fool? I'm sure I have in my own time. Have I pretended not to understand things? Children often pretend not to understand things to not have to do the thing they don't want to do. Often they play the fool in class and ask stupid questions that the teacher has to take seriously. But what does it mean when an adult who has a high opinion of his intelligence well, that's the thing. I don't know if the being deliberately obtuse or genuinely not understanding what I'm saying, or maybe this is a combination of the two, where it's something you don't like, you don't particularly care for it, and you think if you can ignore it, it'll go away. And perhaps a thinker um, doesn't really think. Okay, perhaps the person in this position doesn't really think they're doing anything dishonest. Or they do, or they don't. I don't know. But the point is, it's either stupid, it's either corrupt, or it's just mad. So the reasons for deliberately ignoring truth, logic, and morality could be because that person is corrupt, because it is corruption to ignore truth, or the person is stupid, not knowing what I'm saying, even though I am known for saying the same thing again and again, or the person is mad. But it doesn't matter which it is. You could say that mental illness can be caused by the cognitive dissonance that people suffer, which is the chasm between what they're expected to believe or pretend to believe and the reality of things as they expect it. And I suppose most people don't know their minds. Who is to say that I'm not one of those people who like a story and want to make it come true and will ignore all the naysayers that I come across. But I like to think that at the very least, I'm prepared to argue about it, right? I mean, that's the whole point of being a political activist. You are always up for an argument about why you're right and why somebody else is wrong. Often, people wish you would have shut up, but what is wrong is people who hold strong views yet refuse to argue about it. Why would they refuse? Presumably because they know they're going to lose the argument. Now, what in particular is on my mind is apparently intelligent people not being able to understand what I'm saying, or the pretending not to, which is even more infuriating. And of course, what's on my mind is really the truth of my propositions. And I would be delighted if people just try to shoot down the truth and logic of my propositions. That would be a start, right? And who's to know that they're not actually being quite sensible in that, because they know they can't shoot down the truth, logic, and morality of my propositions, they're not even going to bother. But then that means they already know they've lost all the arguments. Is it true, though, that I've lost all the arguments? I've just seen another post from Vincent Bruno, who uh, goes on picking up the threat between Jews and Hindus. And he's saying, in a chicken licken sort of way, that the Jews and Hindus are going to gang up. But I think that's not the real danger. The real danger is our government just carrying on with its nonsense and telling us to believe in its nonsense, forcing us to believe in its nonsense and act according to the supposed logic of that belief. Now, over the weekend, I read a novel by Barbara Pym, who is known for her fondness of clergymen. She's one of those people who would visit churches for the fun of it and enjoy the services. And she writes about the people who go to church, who are vicars, deacons, bishops, and the like, and their lives together. And people who are nostalgic about the old genteel English ways would be sentimental about how things were, and possibly enjoy her descriptions of bygone England. Oh, how nice to have you all here. Jamiron, you're an ex-Muslim and you support my proposition. That's nice. And you say it's only the rational and most beneficial evolution of Islamic thought, despite irrational and emotional attachments. Well, perhaps you'd like to join me. I just want to say that, let me try. I mean, perhaps I've said it so many times before and it doesn't need to be said again. And let's go back to Vincent saying that that there is an arguable case that Hinduism could be considered no-hide by certain rabbis. The both of us have argued that, well, he's saying the corrupt rabbis would say yes, Hindus can be no-hides, and I'm saying that the principled rabbis would certainly say no. But some people who want to argue the toss would say, well, there are Hindus who do not believe in multiple deities, or they believe that all these multiple deities are really one deity. But I know that Christians kill each other for having the incorrect apprehension of God. And we know that Spinoza was excommunicated, even though he was technically a monotheist, because he was saying that the universe and God was one. But he offended against a third principle of Judaism, which said we must never ever conceive of God as in any way material, physical, and therefore he can't be a man or a moon or the moon or a mountain or anything that we can see and think we could possibly know. So why why did the people of old get so excited about? Uh, and I think really we need to conceive of God. Okay, if we're going to bother doing it, right? I'm not talking about atheists. If we want to benefit, if we want to have the um, maximal advantage of this Abrahamic moral system, then we need to start by conceiving of God correctly to his maximal, supreme, omniscient, omnipotent, perfectly moral extent. But then there'll be people who say, oh, well, is it really that likely that uh, God created the universe and is alive and all aware and in perfect control of the universe and knows our hearts and minds and will punish or reward us accordingly, according to our performance in the examination that is its life on earth? And I'm saying you won't get the full benefit of it if you worship God like a Hindu or like Spinoza, because Spinoza's view was that God, having created the universe, takes no interest in human affairs, and certainly no interest in human morals, and will not actually punish or reward anyone in this life or the next. And Hindus who only believe in reincarnation do not have a kind of afterlife that is as scary as going to heaven or hell. And therefore, they're not accomplishing the objective of totalitarian control, I guess. And why am I being so totalitarian about it? It's only because it's a difference between the full potential benefits of a belief and moral system and but just half-assed kind where nobody follows the rules properly. They everybody's vague and saying yes it could be, but it could be the opposite, and we'll just kind of muddle along. And I think we have seen the consequences of just muddling along, and we should be upset at the opportunities for avoiding error and disaster that we missed. So why don't we just correct ourselves, right? So, okay, even if God doesn't really exist, it is easily shown that if most people believed in God, then they would be more likely to obey God's laws, and therefore they would be more likely to live in a well-governed society where there is justice, or the hope of it in this life. This seems obvious to me. And this means that people who refuse to take it seriously will have to be dealt with. And I'm sorry to say that it's mostly people around me. I think I'm the only one who believes that we're missing many opportunities by not conceiving correctly of the Abrahamic God. And because we don't conceive of him correctly, we keep faltering and falling and tripping and spending a lot of time in ditches wondering what the hell happened. And nothing but the stubbornness of ignorant and rather slow people, even though they've been to proper universities, is a problem. And obviously, I don't have the power to force people to come round to my point of view, even though I don't think that they've won the argument. I know they can't win the argument, and that's why they won't let me speak, or they'll keep pretending not to understand what I'm saying, or deliberately distorting um, my ideas. So I guess I will have to emphasize that um, people who refuse to take it seriously um, are lacking in masculinity and principle, because you either believe or you don't. Okay, but even atheists would have to acknowledge, since they often use it as um, an accusation, like, oh, religion is mind control, and with the assumption that mind control is a bad thing. But what is cognitive behavior therapy but mind control of the subject himself or herself? You know use CBT to make you reframe some event or phenomenon in a different way, so you react to it in a different way. So instead of dismay, it's delight, and thereby you make life um, more livable than if you always have a negative reaction to some event. Right, I will answer your God's question on um, circumcision. It's not a difficult question to guess. Uh, the answer shouldn't be hard to guess. It would be neutral. Circumcise your male offspring if you must. I'm not going to stop you if you don't want to. I'm not going to stop you either. Um, it's really none of my business. I am neutral. Uh, Starting a podcast to explore the different path towards this goal. Yeah, you see, it would be nice to talk to people from academia, but they don't want to talk to me, right? I'm sure quite a few of them are um, well aware of my existence and my ideas. It's just that they won't be seen dead discussing my ideas. Well, have you tried interesting anyone in academia with my ideas? They're actually terrified. They're terrified of being seen dead discussing my ideas. And this is something that I am reminded again and again. And, okay, I get it. I get it that not every man is an alpha male. And even though quite a few beta males would like to pretend they're alpha males, they're not going to say anything that will cause the people around them to hate them, right? I think I'm the only one who dares to do that. But a lot of people are just going to, go with the herd, the anti-Semitic, Islamophobic herd, when in fact they're actually part of the problem in refusing to take religion seriously. But over the weekend, I suppose I always knew that anyway. So I'm talking about people who call themselves agnostic. I am such a person, but I have reached my position after due consideration of the implications of calling myself agnostic. Of course, there have been people who keep, insist I'm atheist, and people who say I'm really Muslim. But I'm saying agnosticism is the most respectable intellectual position to take, because you control either side of the argument. And as I was saying earlier, even if you're an atheist and hate the idea of a theocracy, you, as an atheist, know why you hate it because you'll be forced to affirm certain beliefs and be expected to act on them. But that's fine. I mean, at the most basic, it would be we're all law-abiding members of society, and we obey the law because nobody wants to be, a criminal and incarcerated or executed or punished in some way for whatever crime that we might be punished for. But the point is, what is a crime, and do does what the law forbid now uh, is what the law forbids now moral, and is what the law encourages now moral? And obviously, there is controversy on these subjects. We don't agree. Um, some of you who already know my ideas will not be agreeing with my proposals. So the only way of resolving the matter would be, well, to take it higher, and as Jamiran was saying, take it to academia. But sadly, academia is also corrupt and Islamophobic. And sadly, a lot of Muslims just don't know how to talk to Islamophobes. Leaving it to me, I guess. Leaving it to me to do the talking for them, while not even able to get their tiny little minds round my idea. I don't think even Muslims understand it. I don't think most of them are capable of arguing it, and I suppose they have a vested interest in pretending not to understand it, or being part of the um, gang that want to ignore it and suppress it and hope it will go away. And sometimes it works. If there's something you don't like, we've been told, like, well, if you don't react to this person who's looking for a reaction, by ignoring this person who's trying to get a reaction from you, they will eventually get tired and go away. And this, I think, is what the liberal establishment is doing, because they know they can't win the argument against me. And sadly, nobody really cares about the arguments. It's all about, what they like and what they don't like, because they're so ego driven. And the problem about having a haphazard collection of likes and dislikes, you really won't make anything of them. I mean, you can't make them work. So what would happen is that you might, this is an example, you might have a problem with unmarried mothers, but you want the welfare state to be even more generous than it is now. So obviously there are, these desires are mutually contradictory. Or you could be, I'm trying to think of examples. I did say earlier about what Vincent was tends to talk about, which is the Jews approving of Hinduism, the rabbis approving of Hinduism. But you see, the problem of rabbis approving of Hinduism is that there's no one to contradict them, because they haven't got a hierarchy, unlike Christians who have a pope or an Archbishop of Canterbury. But then there are different kinds of Christians, and a lot of their infighting has been to do with who actually represents Christianity. So if you're Catholic, you'll say, well, the Pope over monarchs. If you're a Protestant, you would say Protestants have the right to interpret, Protestant kings have the right to interpret their, uh, they have the right to interpret Christian scripture, sola scriptura. And particularly those who believe in an established church, when, like Sweden or Norway or Britain. And then there are the Calvinists, and the Calvinists are Presbyterians, and Presbyterians believe that the congregation should appoint their minister, their pastor. So all these ideas of who is the highest status religious leader within Christianity is already a problem. So obviously the Catholics don't agree with the Protestants, and those Protestants who support the established church won't support Calvinists. And in the UK, this, it's a mishmash. It doesn't work. Nobody takes the whole thing seriously. So obviously that's a problem if people's minds are in such a mess that they can't even understand that going to church on Sunday won't help improve your government, because it is as irrelevant as I'm trying to think of a good example, a good analogy. It is as irrelevant as me jumping up and down in my room trying to send vibrations to the room across the road. Obviously, people in my home would hear me jump up and down, but certainly not the people opposite. So what would be the point? But people don't understand because they don't understand their own history or how the mechanics of politics works. Or particularly Americans, they don't even understand that their founding fathers separated the church from their state. So it doesn't matter what their church or synagogue or mosque says about anything. Nobody cares. I see 3. Yay, he's here. So I don't have to witter on anymore to myself and bore you going over old ground, hoping to express what I have been saying a little better than before. Hey, IC3.
Greetings. How are you?
I'm a little frustrated, but that's okay. I mean, what is new anyway?
Yeah.
How have you been?
Oh, in good spirits, exploring the Zamani, trying to understand Zamani, which is I'm going to have a stab at comparing Zamani to secular Quranism.
Who created Zamani?
Well, this is it. So I'm gonna. I'm not. I really. I'm just gonna have a stab at it based on what. But you really need to speak to the Africans. But I'll say something anyway. So, what I understand from conversations with them, they're saying, if you look up the word zamani, it basically means the concept of time, or uh, some long time ago in the past, in
Mm-hmm.
contrast with the sasha, which is the present. But the past and the present, they kind of merge to some degree. Right. So what they're saying is this new um, uh, emergence of zamani. What they're saying is that um, the African, in contrast to the European, I'm gonna try and do it. Try and get it. They're saying that the Europeans, the West, is based off the idea of the logos, or abstract thought. So they're saying that they set up an abstract idea, not based on reality, and then they work towards it.
Can
In
you give an
contrast,
example of what you might or what they might mean?
yes. So, for example, um, like they'll say, like let's say, like they'll say, they quote a lot of Greek philosophers, but I imagine that they're saying the concept of like Jesus Christ. Um, some were saying it's not really a real person; it's a spirit, and we must aspire to be Christ-like, um, even though there's no hard details. You have to get the spirit. So if you get the spirit, then you'll learn. Then you'll behave more Christ-like. And then, what does it mean to be Christ-like? To be Jesus Christ-like? Well, who has the authority on Christ-likeness? Well, then they would say, oh, well, it must be the Peter was the foundation of the church, and Jesus Christ handed the authority to Peter, and then Peter, the pandemic, it set up the church, and then the Roman Catholic Church comes, and then as you were just talking about, the Pope. So therefore, the Pope is the manifestation, the current manifestation of Christ-likeness. Um,
But
and
why not
so,
Muhammad likeness? I mean, considering Muhammad died a natural death, he had wives and children, and he was a successful politician, a military leader. I mean, surely we don't want to be crucified
right, there you
or
go.
be worshipped as God, do
Yes,
we?
but then you see, then it moves to um, Muhammad likeness. It's the Africans, as far as I understand it, it's still abstract. It's still abstract because Muhammad is not around. So when you go to, so how I'm seeing it is that when you have say secular Quranism, you say, right, okay, here it is. There's a book, the Quran. It's there. So so that's real. So the African thought would say, um, the nearest thing to African thought would be to say, okay, uh, let's do secular Quranism, because there's an actual Quran, and it's not really about Muhammad. It's about the Quran. It's there. It's a book you can use. It's real. You can publish it and print it and so on. It's there.
Hmm.
How the Africans think is that they unable to fit in with this world, in that they only accept that which is real. It only becomes real if everybody in the community can manifest it. Um, so they'll only accept that which is proven, and that can be
Oh, yeah, they don't accept
huh?
objective truth. So
Yes,
I get it.
yeah,
Like, okay, well, the Quran, whether you like it or not, it's there. It's got words
yeah,
and in
yes,
Arabic, and there's no dispute about those words.
right, right.
Mm.
And it's a thing, so you can say, right, okay, there it is. We can work with that because it's real, and tangible. And the African way is similar in that they're saying the community, they has a history. They're in a certain place at a certain time, and they have traditions, and all those traditions are based on things that worked um, previously, and they're more like ancestral memory. So everything is real, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
goes right the way back. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying. I mean, you can say, "Oh well, the Quran is a holy book of Muslims. Muslims have been around for 1400 years. We can deduce that the Muslims being around for 1400 years is something to do with the rules that they follow in the Quran. It's not about track record, whatever we think of Muslims."
Yes, yeah. So that's secular Quranism, correct?
Well, I'm just saying, I am trying to choose the best, you know, book of rules with the longest standing track record. I'm not, just saying here's some old rubbish I thought of, right?
Right.
It would be terrible if I just, I, Claire Gore, have thought of all these rules for Westerners and Africans and people
Yeah.
to follow, and it's this. I mean, I think it'd be, people would be insulted. It's like, well, they say, well, who are you? Why should we
Exactly.
listen to your rubbish?
Right. Right. Yeah. So I understand your argument. You'll say, okay, the Bible's been around for a long time, and the Quran is just an update on the Bible. So why not use the latest, um, and possibly the best?
Yeah,
Correct?
yeah, because the Jews, they don't follow their own book, right? They've got all kinds of weird. Oh, you don't, they've got Jews for Jesus and Messianic Judaism and Reform Judaism and ultra Orthodox Jews and even amongst ultra Orthodox, it's like
Yeah.
there'd be a kind of less Orthodox, modern Orthodox.
Yeah.
Then they call themselves Modocs or open orthodox. So they don't agree, and they don't have a leader to say, oh, this is all rubbish. I'm in charge now.
Exactly.
So you can't do anything with them. And Christians, as I've been explaining earlier, they don't agree with each other. But sadly for Muslims too, the Sunnis have no leader. And the Shias, who could at least say, well, we have a supreme leader in Iran, and his name is Imam Khomeini, but they're only 20% of the Ummah.
Right. And also, you have to check out. You have to check out all the hadiths, because the hadiths cause all kinds of problems. If you just stick with the Quran, correct? From the secular Quran, it's just the Quran. You throw out hadiths, correct?
Well, okay, the hadiths. I don't say I reject all the hadiths, but the trad Muslims, who study it, they're very attached to it, and I'm saying fine. I do find some of the hadiths useful, but what I'm saying is that for Westerners who are thinking of adopting it, they have to just start from the Quran, and if they think this is fair enough, it's going to be our law. They can do it without having to, ask these Hadithic Muslims their permission. So they could do it, but I know a lot of the hate that Muslims get, when people hear about the Islam is from the Hadith, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. So,
But
so
I mean, the ordinary Muslim wouldn't know much about it. They just, they think their religion's being adopted, and they think they won't know how to pray without the hadith. And I said, yeah, okay. So you use a hadith and pray the way that it tells you to. But for the rest of us, meaning me and anybody who's not Muslim, it's just a legal system. It's just a legal system that will restore the patriarchy, and that is the most obvious
what is the
difference.
legal system? When you say it's just a legal system, what is the it you're referring to?
Secular Quranism is a legal system because it
Ah,
doesn't care.
I thought you were referring to the hadiths.
Oh no, I mean the hadith is basically commentary, right? Muhammad said this, he did that, and this is how this verse has always been interpreted and everything. And I'm saying a lot of it is wrong. and
Yeah.
you can't prove, oh, we were never wrong, because if you never got anything wrong, you wouldn't be the bottom of the heap, always complaining about Western imperialism
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
and the treachery of the Jews. You'd be the ones bossing everyone else around, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So they can't say, oh, just because we're Muslims, we got it right, and you, Claire Core, you don't know what you're talking about because you're not even
Yeah.
Muslim and you're stupid.
Yeah. So it's so the Jews, if they were sticking to the book, which is the Torah, and not the Talmud. Yeah. So
Well, they also need. I mean, to be fair to the Jews, they need their commentary because it's sort of like,
need
yeah,
their commentary. They need their commentary.
everybody needs their commentaries because somebody uh, I don't know who he was now. You were saying, you have the law, right? You have the law that says do this, don't do that, no drink driving, no whatever, whatever, and then you have case law, and the case law is our hadith, right? You know, it's like this rule against stealing. You have all these different cases of people, trying to steal or having stolen, but getting off because of this, technicality in the law. I mean, everybody has the equivalent of hadith. So, it's not like I'm going to say ignore all of it because obviously some of it is helpful. But for countries that are going to adopt it afresh, they have to go through the thing themselves
Right.
and
Okay.
just
So
ignore the
right.
bits that they don't like. I mean, they might even like some of that.
Right. 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 So as a principle, you're saying find people should have a core values that they work with, and then they can have they can create their own hadiths and talmuds and different versions that makes them feel comfortable. But there needs to be a central core that's unchangeable in order to build a successful, stable society. Correct?
Yes, we need to know what the rules are because if we don't know what the rules are, how can we even obey them?
Right.
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 So I mean, okay, the Jews with their Ten Commandments. At least it's like we may or may not agree with them, but we know there are
What the
10,
rules are?
right? There are 10, and it's something to do with being, respecting our elders, not killing or stealing, and not having extramarital sex. But maybe keeping the Sabbath. I mean, the Jews are going to say, well, it's just for us. It's not for you, Lord. You just took our scripture, off our
Mhm.
hands, and we couldn't stop you because we're only 1% of the total human population, right? And then, of course, the meaning of idolatry. Have Jews and Muslims got the correct interpretation and the Christians got it wrong?
Right. So secular Quranism is basically using the Quran as the universal or global book of rules
Hmm.
as an upgrade from the Bible and um, the Talmud. So so you're saying the Abrahamic faiths uh, are fundamental model. That's the best you're saying, yeah?
Because the Abrahamic God is the most powerful God, right? Nobody can think of a more powerful God than the Abrahamic God, can they?
Hmm. I think the Africans would say um, that God is really the collective memory of a particular group of people or a particular tribe. So their ancestral memory is personified in them. So that becomes the God, as it were. So God takes on different characteristics based on the different experiences and environment of each tribe or each group.
I suppose the Jews would say that, like, oh, our tribal ancestral memory was that the Torah was given to Moses on Mount Sinai. But the Quran actually says, it's not Arabs that Allah favors, because there is a verse that says, whoever is the most righteous has God's favor, or words to that effect. So it's not saying any tribe or race has is assumed to be more moral than others. It's saying everybody, whatever your nation, tribe, or race, that's you adopt the system, and you know, uh, um, presumably the group that most correctly follows the Quran will prosper, and those who distort its words and uh, ignore its principles, they will not.
Okay, so that prosper that you're talking about, what I hear the Africans saying is like, well, their tribes have lasted longer than any of these Abrahamic faiths.
Oh,
So
which ones?
they said they're I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to list all the. I'm not an expert on the tribes, but they're saying that their tribes they go way back. You know, way back beyond what the Abrahamic date line is.
I suppose white people, I mean, the ones who think that we all came from Africa might say, oh, that's what you mean, what Adam and Eve came from Africa or something like that.
Or even the concept of Adam and Adam and Eve and the 6,000 years and so on. You know, all of that. They're saying their tribes. They've got many different tribes that go way beyond the Bible, the biblical, the Abrahamic timeline.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose
what I'm digging at is prosper. The concept of prosper. What does it mean to prosper? So just because a book came out and it's been going for a few hundred years, how do you measure that as prosper? So what do you look?
empire.
You look at the Arabs. You know, and what do you want to live like the Arabs? Is that an example of prospering? So many people would look at how the Arabs live or the Muslims live, and they think, well,
I would say the empire,
what?
because it's the subjective, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, everybody's going to say they're better than all the others, but it's only the Christians who acquired three global empires: the Spanish, the British, and the American Empire.
Right. So that's not Islam. That's under Christianity, correct?
Exactly, but then
So therefore,
the
they're more prosperous than Islam, then, or the Quran, correct? Because they've been around longer and they've got a wider empire.
but they're declining, and they're not happy bunnies, are they? They're kind of confused and in fear. They fear the future. They fear each other. They fear the immigrants. They fear their government. And I'm saying, it's already here. The solution is already here. It would be the best available guide to humanity, the Quran. And then the next question is, well, if the Quran is so wonderful, why are these Muslims so stupid? And so,
Right. Yeah,
you
because
know,
you mentioned the word prosper. So I'm trying to dig into this. What prosper you associated with the West and the Christians, and then you're saying prosper. So I'm not really sure how you're defining prosper.
well, I am talking in terms of empire. So, um,
So a big empire is a sign of prosperity.
yeah, military supremacy, political supremacy, etc. But a lot of people in the West fear and hate Islam because they see it as a threat. And it seems that Muslims are doing better and better, and there are more Muslim mayors in more and more important cities of the West. So I mean, we could just read the writing on the wall and jump before we're pushed. Is kind of what I'm saying.
All right. So
Um,
you're saying that it appears that Islam, oh, the Quran or Islam, I mean, is the same thing.
um, Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I just want to center on Quran on the Quran, because I want to emphasize that you know um, the rule of law is basically following the law, and there will be, you know, people who, even amongst Muslims, they don't quite agree or with each other on the, you know, idolatry and all that sort of thing. And I'm saying, fine, you guys disagree with each other till, you know, kingdom come, but the new system, the system that I propose, does support the First Amendment. It does say under chapter 2, verse 256, that there is no compulsion in belief. Truth stands clear from error. So it does give you the right to express incorrect opinions. And I'm
That's the
saying it
Quran.
supports the First
Right.
Amendment. And
So
obviously the Americans are the most important people around, because, you know, they are the ones who have their global empire. And
okay, so let's dig into this prosper. So the expanse, the apparent expanse of Islam might not be the prosperity of the Quran. It could be that this form of Islam that seems to be growing and blossoming all over the place could be a version of Islam that has been that is acceptable to the West. So Islam is prospering in the West because the West has tailored Islam to make it more palatable. So that's why it appears to be prospering, and it's not actually um, Quran that's prospering.
um, well, I mean, you can only talk about individuals prospering, right? You can't talk about books or that sort of thing. But I'm saying, I mean, it's basically a numbers game, right? I mean, you know, that a lot of Islamophobia is based on the fact of the sheer number of Muslims and immigrants who come to the West, right? And the fact that they appear to be
Numbers.
taking over. So I
Okay.
guess, you know, it will always be a numbers game. And obviously the only way to keep your group in existence is to, you know, be married parents, properly parenting your offspring to carry on the existence of your group.
Okay. You said a numbers game. So that's
It's a
quantity.
demographics
Yeah.
game.
Quantity. So pros- prosperity as measured by numbers or quantity, in contrast to prosperity as measured by quality. So I understand what you're saying when you say the numbers game. I understand you just saying, "Whoa, look at the amount of Muslims blossoming all over the place. It must be doing well." But I hear other people saying that um, just because if you have a farm and you have a lot of cattle, right?
Mhm.
Your the large amount of cattle, the quantity shows that you're wealthy, but the farmer he's just got his family, yeah. So you could it appears to me that Islam could appear to be prospering just like they're managed cattle, and because they are they stick to some rules or whatever, so they're easily managed. As long as you got control over the banking and the finance, the Muslims make good workers. You know, they eat simple, dress simple. They're a good what's it? You know, good numbers.
Productive citizens,
Yes,
law
productive
abiding.
citizens. Yeah,
Mhm.
right. That's it. That's it. So therefore, their prosperity is
Useful.
just right. So they're just cattle. So just like having lots and lots of cattle. But who is managing the farm? Those that are managing the farm, they're more focused on power and control and order. They don't really care. You know what numbers. All they're concerned about is their family or their group or their clan. You know, and that clan or group or society will never be the masses, because they're not interested in that. They're interested in setting up efficient systems to manage the mass. So they're focused
Yeah,
on
yeah. We're
quality.
talking about government
Yeah.
and administration, right? So, so I
Yes.
guess an empire would consider itself successful. If it's a global empire, right?
Right. Yes. And
Bigger you
that
are, the better.
right. And
And
then that global
religions,
empire, the managers don't need to be numerous. They just need to be efficient. Their system needs to be efficient. Just because the empire's got loads and loads of people in it, they're just like animals. They're just cattle on the farm, animal
well,
farm
well,
kind of
well
thing.
for the success of empires, I mean, there would be a number of criteria, like, how big is your empire? How long did it
Right.
last? And how
Right.
many people were in it?
Yes. That's right. So, yeah. So how many people are in it is still is how many people are you managing? It's how many animals do you have on your farm? You
Mm,
got how many? You got 10,000 chickens. You got 40,000 sheep. You got all these different animals. You got vegetables. House. These are all departments of the farm. So
yes.
what farmers will compare each other's farms and say, well, how prosperous is your farm compared to mine? They're not really counting themselves. They're just counting the size of their farm.
Well, yeah, how productive is your husbandry, right?
Yes.
What are you producing on your farm? I mean, if you say nothing, there's only one chicken.
Yeah, that's right. Right. So, so that's why I wanted to dig into the concept of prosperity when you mentioned prosperity. Um, that prosperity could be the way that you're saying it. It's just Islam is prospering because there's Muslims everywhere, but I can see it that Islam appears to be prospering because they're just good animals.
Well, I mean, we are all animals, right? Human beings are animals. So, how do
Well,
you,
I don't know about
well,
that.
we are, right?
Yeah, see, there's the management, the elite. They'll say, we've gone past that. We're not animals. We're humans,
With,
and
with immortal souls. Is that their position? I think they're mostly atheist.
yeah, but that's their kind of thing. They see themselves as the class to manage the world. The world is their responsibility, as it were. The
Yeah,
people
so
are their
so they're going
responsibility.
to be trying to manage us, with
Yeah,
their laws and policies, etc.
exactly.
And and
That
and
they
and I
design.
think they they must know that we're not happy with them.
But who cares? They don't really care whether you're happy or not. When you have, if you're managing a farm, you know that there's going to be fights among the animals. So it's just management. You just manage the
Yeah, yeah.
fighting.
So they're not managing us very well. They can't explain why they're doing certain things. That they're not, they want to avoid questions, which suggests that they really have the answers. They just want to do what they want to do because they want to do what they want to do, and they don't care about us. They don't even want to answer our questions. But if they really cared about us, they would be, well, oh, you're not happy. What's wrong? Why don't you like it? And maybe if I explained it to you properly, you wouldn't be so, full of hate and fear, or
Oh,
something like that. But instead, they just call
ah,
us names to
so let's
shut
slow
to
this
shut
down.
us up.
Let's slow this down. You see, the managers. I'm trying to see it from the manager point of view, that um, prosperity and happiness, right? They would see that there has to be there has to be happiness and sadness. So they're managing both sides. They don't want everybody to be happy all the time. They've got to have some sadness. So sometimes it's that they'll keep, you know it's like sometimes they in order to keep everybody working. What's that term where they have to sacrifice few people. Like if they're trying to have a company, and they have to get rid of kick some people out. every. It's like pruning. It's like pruning. So every now and then,
Redundancies.
yeah, they've got to um, abuse or get rid of some people and let the others see.
Efficiency drives.
Yes, that's right. So they know when the worker sees another worker get fired or abused, they don't want to be that worker, so they'll work harder and they'll concentrate on their work. And then it's the carrot, and was it the carrot and the stick?
Stick.
Yeah, so they know that whenever they use a stick, people are going to be unhappy about it. But they know when they use a carrot, people will be happy. So the carrot and the stick is all part of the management process. It's all part of
Hmm.
it. They're not trying to keep everybody happy. Why? Why would they be
Yeah.
trying to keep everybody happy? Well, how they're judging it is the prosperity is not the amount of happiness or sadness. It's is the situation fertile? Are there more cattle? Are the cattle prospering? Are there more of them? Are they fertile? The fighting will go on. That's why they got management. That's why they got policing. That's why they got security.
But
They
really,
expect riots every now and then.
yeah. So there's always going to be a few, criminals and rioting and
Yeah,
whatever. But
exactly.
really, if we just divided um, moral systems into patriarchy and matriarchy, then we'll just understand the bigger picture, right? So patriarchy is all about rules and hierarchy, and basically run like a military organization. And matriarchy is this pretense, like, oh, we're all equal.
Yeah,
Everybody's got them a mother, and just letting women run that society. So, which do you think is going to be better run? I'm not saying that patriarchies are always wonderful and give justice. I'm saying patriarchy just gives us a better chance of enjoying good government, because if it's properly constituted and run, then the best person gets to rule the country, right? And hopefully that would be better than some mediocre person who doesn't even know what they're doing running the country, or worse, somebody chosen because they're corrupt and stupid, right? Which
okay.
is kind of the case now. But if we just make it easier, we thought, okay, the really two extremes of government. There's one that says patriarchy, people can only have sex with the person they're married to, the person they marry. Their spouse can only be a member of the opposite sex. They're supposed to have children and bring them up properly, and if they don't, there's going to be trouble. And then there's the other lot who say, "Oh, we can be gay. Who cares? We can have sex with whoever because you only live once, right?"
Yeah.
And you can imagine which society is going to be run better and
Oh,
which one is going to take the other over.
okay. So hold on to that. So I got your point, but there's another way of looking at it. Have you heard about the was it androgyny? What's that? Is that the word,
Yes,
right?
it's sort of not being able to tell if a person is male or female.
Androgynous. Right, right. So I hear over the years, I've heard a lot about. They're saying that the true rulers, the true elite of the world, the true rulers of the world, they're really they aspire to androgynous
Androgyny, maybe.
androgyny. Yes, that's right, that's right. So all this male female back and forth like you're talking about, they understand it, but they're above that. They manage males and they manage females and they manage the conflict and the tension between the male and female because they have ascended into a Jonas mindset of into the realm of the gods, where they just manage the male and female whatever they're not limited to that. They just see that they must be in a position to manage um, the farm, as it were. And
Well, farmers do breed
there you
their
go.
farm animals, right? And,
Yes,
and it's even called
breeding dogs.
husbandry, animal husbandry.
Yes,
So
And
I
those
guess
people,
we need husbands, more husbands, to make our society run better.
yeah, but
Not single
the-
mums, husbands.
yeah, but the single mums, it could be a strategy where those that are governing society say that, we're going to bring in we're going to allow the single mums to be, right, because it has, it's like a garden. Single mums upsets a certain group of people. So all it is this management. It's just management, because, and all of that could be managed through finance. It's through finance. Why do single mums appear? When did they? When did it become a big thing? Who put that in the
The
news?
swinging 60s, the pill, sexual liberation
Right.
from the rules of marriage and good parenting.
Right. So, but all of that is part of management as well. It could be part of management.
Yes, well, the
They
management,
designed the
you mean
swinging
government,
60s.
don't you, when you say management?
Okay, so when we say government, right, there's the other side where people say, look, all these governments are just like uh, fences in the farm, pens. So, and then you hear people saying, "Oh, our is not listening to our people, and we're doing this vote and so on and so on." And then they say, "Well, the government is not is controlled by these external forces who bribe what they say, the lobby groups. So the government is either serving the people because the people are rioting, or they're voting, or so the government will be serving the people because they're following the democratic system, or the government is serving these groups, financial groups, who bribe them to do to make certain policies to manage the countries or nations or whatever. So when you say
I'm not a
government,
Democrat.
yeah, I keep hearing there's no real democracy. That's what I keep hearing from people all the time. There's no real democracy. These people, they're listening to the Bilderberg Group, or they're listening to the World Economic Forum, all these things, and so all the people are angry with the government because they're saying that their government is not actually their government. The government is doing the will and creating policies that are serving big finance or big corporation. So when you say government, I, I'm just thinking of those two sides. You see,
Well, I mean, we're always going to get government, right? Because, um, but whether we get good government is a different thing. So how do we get good government that um, has just laws and and enforces it? We will have people who would be happy with it, right? I mean, that's the only test.
happy
Yeah, people
people that are happy with the government. That's good
yeah,
government.
yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
don't know. I don't know.
okay, so you
Happy with
and
the
people say,
government.
oh, it's a we want to be capitalist or communist or whatever they want to be. But can we just agree that if the government is good, then most people will just not even want to talk about politics at all? Wouldn't you agree? They just, because they wouldn't think anything was an issue.
But if they think, if they don't think anything is an issue, I don't know if that's possible. If you don't, I'm just trying to think from the other side. Maybe the elites see that they want to make issues that people are concerned about, because if they don't create issues that people are concerned about, people might start creating their own issues.
No,
And if
look,
people
it's
create
so
their own,
simple. You're saying there's a malign government that's making us fight each other. Possibly, um, we can't prove it though, or maybe we can. But the point is, we want to, be proud of the country we live in, to get along with our neighbours and our family, and love our jobs, and feel that we're being well treated by our government. Isn't that what everybody wants?
I was at Speaker's Corner about 2 weeks ago, and there was a group of Chinese people, and I think only about two of them could speak English. Two or three of them could speak English. So about
And you
12.
were arguing with them, were you?
No, so I went over them and listened to what they were saying, what they were presenting, and they had translators. They were
Oh,
translating
right, that
stuff.
they were there to propagate their message.
Yes, that's right. And so I
Mm.
went up to them and I said, "What's all this about then?" And the one that could speak very good English, she was saying that, "Oh, we're talking about the corruption of the Chinese government. The Chinese government's terrible, terrible, terrible. They're trying to say they want more like the West, want the values of the West and freedom and stuff like that." And I said, "Okay, so what exactly is going on with the Chinese government? What they're doing bad over there?" And then they started to list all these things and started to say, and they were very happy to explain. And then I was saying, but the things that I'm hearing you say, I hear people over here in the UK saying the same thing about their government. I said, because everything that you're saying that the Chinese is bad about the Chinese government, I'm hearing the it's the same kind of talk I'm hearing over here in the West.
Well, they complain about their government too. Fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I want them to adopt secular Quranism with Chinese characteristics, but there are probably quite a lot of Islamophobic Chinese people who think they know better, right? I mean, there'll always be, people who think they know better. But I'm saying, I can make a case for it. I can explain why my system might be better than just something cooked up by somebody who thinks they know everything, right? I mean, I'm trying to choose a best system.
say
It's
again.
just that people hate it because they just hate Muslims. Who they conflate with immigration, right?
Right. So you're saying that because I understand that China has a good history, quite a long history, and then I think it's kind of crashed with the opium wars, and the West kind of took over, and then China kind of liberated itself through adapting communism, and then they tried to free themselves from Russian because they were being ruled indirectly from Russia, because Russia was saying that we are the authority in communism. So we're going to tell you how to do your communism properly. And then Shanghai Shek was he was trying to align himself up with the Russian version of communism. And then Mao come up with a Chinese version. Yeah,
Yeah.
Chinese version of communism, correct?
Well, socialism with Chinese characteristics, I think came from Deng Xiaoping, but obviously the Chinese have adopted communism. They're not, they're going to make it. They're going to have their own interpretation, which I think makes sense, right? You're not just going to follow it blindly. You're going to try and make it work for you without following it blindly. But then there's not that much in communism for you to follow, because it's basically Marx's theory. He's saying that maybe we should think about a bit about the worker instead of just exploiting him. And obviously, it's very popular. This idea is very popular when people are feeling poor.
Right.
But I
And
mean, I think that the Chinese are the only people who've managed to make Marxism a success story. But then,
right.
how much of it is actually Marxism?
Right, exactly. That's the point. Yeah. So therefore, they've yes, they've redeveloped it, and just like you're saying with Quranism, that Abrahamic can be developed with its own characteristics. So why
So
would
the
the
whole idea
Chinese?
is that you can interpret it in your own way. I don't give a damn,
Yeah,
if you're gonna, interpret in a way that I don't like. But I'm saying
right.
it would still be better if you try to apply and interpret those principles. It's better than just making up shit as you go along, right?
Um, so how would you challenge secular Quranism then against because the Chinese system, that what they have, they've developed that over, they've been, I've been watching some videos, um, how they've developed themselves, um, adapting it to their own way. So they're doing what you're suggesting should be done, but only with by adapting Russian communism. They've turned it into Chinese version.
Yes,
So
because Deng Xiaoping decided to try a bit, allow businesses and farmers to keep the extra profit if they're more, you know, I think what they did was they had to give whatever they produced to the state, but
yeah,
but over a certain amount they could keep it or something like that. It's the idea of the profit motive, and
yeah.
everybody loved it, and then it was rolled out through the rest of China. And Deng was saying, I don't care whether the cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. If it works, then why wouldn't I use it? I'm not going to be so ideological that I will only use, white cats or black cats,
Right.
right? He's just, being practical.
So
But I mean,
how would secular Quranism improve what the Chinese have already?
well, it would improve their birth rates, which is pretty dismal at the moment. And so is it pretty dismal in North Korea, in South Korea and Japan,
Ah, right,
because
right.
they've gone on the pill. Working mothers don't have as many children as stay-at-home mothers. So basically, the feminist tide has got to be pushed back, and that's obviously a sacred cow, right?
Ah,
I mean, and
so
this is a real issue. It's about gender relations. People think it's about the economy and capital communism. The biggest obstruction would be, how dare you take away our sexual liberation? Because that will be, the most noticeable change, right?
so 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 you're saying that the Chinese feel sexually liberated now?
Well, according to Western Confucian, who's on X, he does say that the Chinese are very sexually liberated now.
And that sexual liberation is causing them to the
Not have
population to
stable
shrink.
marriages and not have stable families and not want to have children and not care if they don't have children,
Ah,
which used to be something terrible for them. Because the mind of the average Chinese person is completely colonized by Western ideas. I mean, even Marxism is a Western idea when you
yeah,
think of
but
it.
they're trying to, yeah, but they're doing a good job of trying to get away. They're joining with the BRICS. They're all trying to get away from the SWIFT system, the dollar. So that there's whether they have a philosophy to do that. That's another question. But they're trying to become value Chineseness. What they call it, the multipolar world or something.
Multipolar society. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying for the West, for the global American empire, is that they can offer the system, but obviously they have to adopt it. Like we're going to do things differently now, and we're going to try and follow the rules because we haven't, um and
Who's going to say that? The West is going to say we're going to
well, I
try and
mean,
follow the rules.
this is
Who?
what I hope because it's
But
only if the West
hold,
do it.
slow down. You're saying that you hope the West will adopt secular Quranism, and then they're going to have a change of heart as a result of following secular Quranism, and then they're going to have a different behavior towards the rest of the world. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if the whole world adopted secular Quranism, which regulates gender relations, labor relations, consumer relations, and international relations, obviously everybody's behavior would change for the better, in my view.
Interesting, interesting. So, so, so the Quran would be what they'd call the universal law, and then the application, the law can be adapted regionally. I mean, the law, there's a set law, which is the Quran, and then the interpretation of the Quran can be adapted regionally, correct?
Yeah, but nationally, I mean, I'm
Oh, hi,
assuming,
David.
yeah, I mean, and hopefully everybody does, and then the world will be a better place, in my view, because it does regulate gender relations, which is the foundation of everything else, right?
Well, when you said hopefully, because earlier on, I think you mentioning something about the to enforce, the power to enforce. So, so who will be the Quran regulator? Would there be
The
an
judiciary
international?
and the police, because it would be the law, right? It would be the law of the land. What I'm proposing is that Quranic principles become the law of the land. And as such, it would
Right,
have to be enforced by the police and interpreted by the judiciary.
right, and each society or nation would have their own judiciary and interpret the law according to their region.
Yes,
Right. Okay. Okay. Okay.
they
Right.
would
Right.
have their own legal traditions.
And as time, yeah, and so each one of these societies would develop their own legal traditions. And do you think that that could end up with them um, having reason to fight one another, even though they're, just like you have Shia Muslims fighting Sunni Muslims?
Well, I think it would reduce the incidence of war, but if a war did break out, there would be Quranic principles of warfare, which would be fairer.
Mm. And that sounds to me like what they say, the Geneva Convention on War.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the Geneva Convention actually comes from the Quran about how to treat your prisoners of war and stuff. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, it does say. I mean, even the declaration of war is an Islamic thing. Because once upon a time the Europeans did declare their war on each other, which is sort of useful for historians to say who started it, right? And the
Right.
reasons for it, instead of, oh, it's a special military operation and whatever.
Yeah, because people do like to keep a history of who started the war, when, what was the incident. That they say the Second World War started by somebody, or was it the First World War started? They shot a king or somebody like that, and then that was the cause, the reason for the war.
Well,
Um,
that's I guess that's a British version, right?
right. Okay.
The
Yeah. There you go.
assassination of Archduke Franz
That's it.
Ferdinand.
That's it. That's it. Yes. What other versions are there?
Well, I mean, I heard that um, the British didn't need to get themselves involved in this continental war. I mean, in 1870, in the Franco-Prussian War, the Germans besieged Paris, and the British didn't lift a finger to help the French. But in 1914, they decided to enter a war that was just between the continental Europeans, and the German ambassador couldn't believe that. the British were declaring war on Germany over a scrap of paper, as he called it. And by
Yeah,
the scrap of paper, he meant the Treaty of London, 1869,
right. Mm. And
which
settling.
guaranteed Belgian neutrality.
Mm.
So, but I mean, the real reason was because the Germans were building the Berlin to Baghdad railway, and the British thought they would step on Germany before it got too big for its boots.
That's right. It's the trade. So it all came down to trade again, didn't it?
Well, imperial dominance, right? And I don't know
The
which
market.
historian it was, but this historian said World War One and World War Two was a second 30 Years' War. Do you know what the 30 Years' War was about?
The Protestants,
Yes,
Protestantism. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
it was one of the most um, uh, deadly, high casualty European wars of religion. So
yeah.
lots of people died. I mean, of course, the reasons were complicated, but and they died for reasons that we don't even care about now, right? But that at the time, people cared very much whether whether their king took instructions from the Pope or whether they didn't, because
Uh,
that was basically the wars of the Reformation, right? Yeah.
yes, yes. That's right. That's right.
So,
Um,
so, so they were religious in nature. It's sort of like, well, does the Pope really have the right to tell our king what to do? I mean, Henry VIII clearly thought not.
yes. But that always. But you see, I was also looking into some things that, the right. That term, the right. Where is the source of one's authority? And that's what they're really fighting over. Why should? Because if you lose the right of authority, then you lose the right to command, and nobody has to listen to you. Because if you're disobeying um, the source of authority, then nobody
Legitimate
wants to listen to you.
authority. That's what we're talking
Y-
about.
Yes, legitimate
Legitimate
authority. Yes.
moral authority or
Say that
divine
again.
authority.
Yes. Yeah.
So we go back to God again. So I guess Catholics would say, oh, these Protestant kings, that they should have, submitted to the Pope. And I guess a Protestant monarchs would say, well, we know that the Pope ain't perfect, neither were his morals. So why should we listen to him?
Right. 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 And there's selling indulgences. You're making enough money, you can pay for sins in the future. So
Yeah, I mean,
that goes back to the, yeah. Go on.
well, I'm just saying, in defense of the Protestants, they would say, I would say that the wars of the Reformation was inevitable, because I don't think people realize it's like, when those barbarian kings of Europe, who were basically, they were just warlords, they were just good at fighting, and then the Christian missionaries from Rome said, hey king, would you like to have Christianity as your religion? Because we come from Rome, the eternal city, and our leaders used to conquer, your barbarian lands, and we still have the Roman Catholic Church. Maybe you should consider our kind of Christianity as opposed to your local Celtic, whatever, peasant
Druids.
kind of Christianity.
Uh,
Maybe you should have the Roman Catholicism kind of Christianity, you know.
right.
Oh,
And so this legitimacy, from the African point of view, they're saying legitimacy just comes from uh, something that's been practiced for a long time within the tribe. So you have the elders, and you have special people with memories. I forgot what they're called. Yeah, that they keep the memory of the families
Shaman,
and the
maybe.
history. Huh?
Shamans?
No, no, I've forgotten it. It'll come
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
It'll come back
but
to me.
I can imagine, yes, to even sort of say that you have any legitimacy, you have to say, well, we've been around here for a long time, and we know lots of things because we've
Yes,
been here for a long time, and our elders who know all our traditions and our history, blah blah blah, and it always sort of goes like we've been around here, or we were here before you, or that
yes,
kind of thing, right? There's
yes.
an order of precedence even to divine authority, and that is why the Jews always seem to have it over the Gentile,
That's
right?
right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but,
It's
but
time.
that's because the Gentile kind of took their religion, their scripture from them. And obviously they
Yeah,
couldn't stop, the Romans from taking their scripture and saying,
you're right.
we're going to impose our Gentile twist to your, Torah story.
Yes.
I mean, what could the Jews do except, object to it?
Yeah, because they beat them in war. So yeah, and it shows that that question of legitimacy seems to be the ultimate source of power.
Yeah, it's saying God agrees with me. Therefore, you should listen to me because God agrees and protects and supports me, right? But I mean, that's what all the prophets of God, well, that's what they had to use to say, that's why you have to listen to me because God agrees with me, right?
Yes, and God, and the African would say, uh, if you have the prophet saying God agrees with me, then um, it, that some people say that that's a bit near to the concept of the logos or the abstract. God is abstract, while the Africans are saying that God is never abstract. It's never. It is always associated with what went before. You just you just won't have prophets just appear out of nowhere doing some magic and saying God agrees with me. It's too abstract. It's unacceptable.
How y'all doing? Sorry for interrupting. How y'all doing today?
Greetings, greetings.
Do you two know
Yeah.
each other, Mr. Intel?
Yeah, we
Nigger,
do.
not God.
He was quite convincing.
Of course, more
Right,
sophisticated.
but you thought you knew him?
No, I don't know. I just said greeting. I never.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know.
But
I
well, you
suppose
showed his
they
face for a
used
bit.
they used the yeah well that might not be that might be his real face. It might be just using the face of a black man so that you
Hmm.
associated it with maybe he knows me because I'm black. So
Hmm.
yeah, I doubt that much. That was a black person.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah. So um, the ultimate source of authority is the moral high ground, and the moral high ground comes from um, from the history of being around the longest. And if it's not because you've been around the longest with the greatest memory, then it has to be that you got to do some magic trick that impresses people. It's got to be one or the other.
Hmm.
So you're a prophet and you just arrive and say, yeah, God is into me. And they say, well, who are you? And say, well, I watch this. I can do this magic trick. And say, wow, you know, that person is now established that they should be listened to because of the magic trick. Whilst the African would say, no, there's no magic tricks. What you're doing, we have to have seen it. It has to have been in our line for centuries. And anything new, it has to fit in with that which is established already.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've heard, the past explains the present, the future is based on the present. So that there is a kind of timeline of continuity, right?
Right. But what you're doing by secular Quranism, Quran, associating the Quran, then you are then giving value to not memory but the prophets, to the magic tricks,
Well,
because it
I don't think
has no
Muhammad
history.
performed any magic tricks, so though Jesus was. But the point is, the Quran accepts Jesus as a prophet of God and says Muhammad is a final prophet of God.
Right, yeah. So the prophet, the concept of the prophet as the source of morality. So prophet is equivalent of a magic trick rather than the history.
Well, I mean, it could be a bunch of things. I mean, I suppose, it's like, okay, it's a bunch of stories. Maybe children like them and, will remember these stories into adulthood. Um, it could be a tool of government, with the rule, the do's and don'ts of God, right? And it's also a way to regulate regulate gender relations, labor relations, and international relations. So it's useful.
Yeah. But I want to dig into the source of authority. That always seems to be where the fight comes. Right. What is the true source of authority? Because any flaw in the source of authority will lead to chaos and disruption, disorder further down the line. Because cracks, if the source of authority has cracks in it,
There's only
those
one
cracks will
Abrahamic
only be.
God, Mr. IC3. There's only one Abrahamic God, right? Nobody's going to say there's two or three.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if there's one Abrahamic God, but then that Abrahamic God becomes abstract because there's you say there's one Abrahamic God, but then there's all these different views of the Abrahamic God. The Muslims have a view of the Abrahamic God. The Jews have a view of this
No,
Abrahamic
so
God. The Christians have a view. So
so you choose by the quality of the scripture. At least that's objective, right?
you choose by the quality of the scripture.
Yeah.
And then the Jews have that because we have the original scripture, so
Yeah, but you don't follow it. The Jews don't follow it, and it's too hard for them to follow. And then the Christians will.
yeah. But then the Jews can say, and what the Christians are saying is that the reason we're trying to keep it, but we can't really follow it until the Messiah arrives, because when the Messiah arrives,
No
then he'll
excuses,
clean up
excuses.
everything. Yeah, but
No, no,
yeah,
no,
but
but the thing,
yeah.
I mean, what is the problem with the Jews? It's like, well, okay, so the Christians came along and added their New Testament to the Torah.
Yeah, and they're waiting for the return of Jesus as well. It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
but so do. But it's just a logic of if there was a beginning to the universe, then there will be an end. So Jews, Christians, and Muslims believe in the end times when the Messiah comes. And it's like, okay, so there was a beginning, there will be an end, but in the meantime, we still need to kind of sort ourselves out, so we go to the better place in the afterlife, right? We still have to do that. Just because the Messiah is coming tomorrow doesn't mean we today's a free for all, does it? I mean, that's not how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to, rearrange our minds and, so that we're, minded to obey God's laws. And then, if we decide to do that, then we have to choose the most sensible version. We can't follow the New Testament because it has no rules and it's not even from God, right? And we can't follow the Torah because it's for Jews only. So the lower standard of the Quran must be the universal one.
It's interesting because as you were speaking, I was thinking to myself, you know, it, that it appears to be or sounds like a source of perpetual violence, because you're always waiting for this Messiah, and you're always in a constant make do situation, and the very foundation of your society is make do until this abstract entity arrives.
No.
In contrast to what the Africans are saying, that there's no Messiah arriving. Is what you have here now, on your memory of what went before. There's no future person coming to arrive to fix everything. So this
Well,
make
it doesn't
do
sound like
attitude.
they believe in God, do they? It's sort of like, I mean, it sounds like only money and power is what matters, and everything else is just rubbish. It
Say that
sounds to
again.
me.
Who's that?
It sounds to me with these Africans you're talking about. I mean,
No,
it doesn't
because
sound very moral. It's like, well, you
well,
know,
the source of morality is the memory of their particular tribe, which they say goes way back before the Abrahamic faiths. So their source of morality is the morality that that has been developed among them over time, not somebody, no abstract person in the future, no abstract person in the past, no abstract person in the present. It's literally what has grown over time. Their rules,
but
laws.
who are these people? Do they? I mean, are they some secret society or just some people making up a religion?
There is no religion. There is only. It's like if you imagine a group of people. They are this yeah. So they'll say sometimes a tribe splits. So a group will leave a tribe, and then they go away and then find some new piece of land and so where they want to settle. And then when they're deciding where to settle, they'll obviously see, well, is there fish, or what food is around here, and so on. And so as they start to settle into the place and prosper in that place, then they start to establish rules and conditions and habits and rituals to um, to to keep in memory um, their
Okay,
arrival in
so
the
they
place.
started their own religion. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, every
These,
time, yeah. They
yeah,
always
yeah.
start
So
yeah.
why do we just choose the most powerful religion instead of these obscure ones? Can you name this religion?
Right. Well, the religion is them. They are the
Or
religion.
this
It's not something they
tribe?
can adopt. They can't. They don't adopt a religion. What they are the religion. So if you try and say to them, well, why don't you choose this religion? Then that's an abstract thing.
Oh, but the whole idea, we're talking about abstract things, aren't we? We're talking about morality, we're talking about divinity, we're talking about empire. These are all abstract concepts anyway.
Yeah, but it's
So,
not abstract to the African, because they can say the reason we fish here and we don't go into that cave is because ancestors said you fish here, but you don't go into that cave because something may have happened. My friend said, uh, so, sometimes they say, look, no, it becomes a taboo to go into that cave, and then nobody goes into that cave, and they just don't do it. But it's only when the white man comes and he goes into that cave, and then he does some experiments and says, "Oh, there's gas in there." So some poisonous gas in there, and so that's why it's killing. But the people, they just didn't go into the cave, but they never researched into why they don't go into that cave. Something happened a very, very, very long time ago, and they're protected
okay, so they're
from being
ignorant and
poisoned.
unscientific.
Pardon?
So what?
It's unscientific, correct, but it keeps them alive, and it's
No,
real.
there are lots of stupid people that are still alive.
Yeah.
I mean, surely we're just choosing. There are only five world religions, right? I mean, why do you seem to want to choose some obscure one that nobody's heard of? So people will just say, we've never heard of it. Who cares? I mean, I just don't, I don't understand.
Yeah, so a world religion You see, so it's similar to what you're saying, that you're saying there's secular Quranism, and then you can all interpret it according to your own regional ways, but that's our center. What the Africans are saying, that they interpret the world, they interpret nature according to their own experience.
Yeah, they don't interpret it in their own way. If they interpret it in a crap way, then I guess they'll just be weak and be exploited by the people who interpret it properly. I mean, we don't know, who will interpret it most correctly, right? I mean, but obviously, if you're going to believe in the system, you should follow it properly. You've
Most
been given an instruction manual. Either you choose to follow it or don't follow it. But if you're going to follow it, you must all do it properly.
Mhm. And this manual, you
Lots
see,
of Africans are Muslims, so I don't know why.
yeah, but they see they see that as that it's Abrahamic ideas or
Well, they say
versions of
they don't like
Abrahamic
it.
ideas.
A lot of people don't like the Abrahamic God because it's
Yeah,
too totalitarian. It's like, fine, you make up stuff. You have your own religion, but there is no advantage in having a new religion because you're just a new kid on the block. It's like, who are you? Never seen it before. You've just come up with some newfangled thing. We prefer our old religion, and it's because it's been around for a long time,
yeah.
right? So that's a thing. It's you won't have time to come up with your own religion and then see it to its conclusion, because when you think about it, like, well, when did Jesus die? In the first century. When did the Romans adopt it? In the fourth century. So do we want to wait all this time?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like saying we're going to wait for our society or civilization to crash and burn before we adopt this. But the thing is, if it's a new religion, you're going to be treated like a cult, right? And cultists get no respect. They're always, kicked around and mocked and marginalized and demonized. So there is no advantage in having a
So
new
so
religion.
Christian Rome has got respect then.
Well, I think they still sort of do because they represent the most powerful empires still. But they could do it, peacefully, right? They could sort of say, well, nobody really believes that Jesus is God anyway. And Islam, well, it they could say Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are worship the same Abrahamic God. Right, and they obviously think they're the best and most correct, but well, is
They
there any
worship
way
the
of working
same.
it out?
What is this Abrahamic God? Worship the same Abrahamic God.
Well, you would want to choose the most powerful being conceivable, right? You don't want to be worshipping your kind of low status God, and then somebody says, "Well, my God is more powerful than your God, so we're going to win."
So see, the most powerful God conceivable, you said. Um, so whoever happens to be the strongest, the best fighter, but being the best fighter might not necessarily mean you have the best society, because it could mean that you just
Time will
you,
tell.
exactly you just cause a lot of havoc, and then you fade away, whilst there's other people that could, you beat them up for a while, but they just outlive you until you fade away. But
Well,
with all this,
so it depends on the longevity of your identity. So
right?
your empire, the
Yes,
longevity of your empire.
yeah, and therefore the whoever has the longest empire um, has the proper worship form of worship for the Abrahamic God. So the Abrahamic God changes according to the strength of the people that are serving it.
No, it's about following rules, right? It's
Yeah, but you
about
keep making up rules because you can just say, "Oh, the Abrahamic God, it's out there." And then you just keep making up different rules. Everybody's making up
no,
rules, and
they
then whoever's the
haven't.
strongest rules,
Okay, the Quran. Are Muslims fighting over the wording of the Quran? I don't think so.
they're fighting over the interpretation of it.
Yeah, but they're not fighting over. Oh, they're not fighting over what the Quran says. They might be fighting over the interpretation. But okay, that's the best we can do. We'll just have to follow it to the best of our ability, right? We don't have to follow it in that crap way that's caused their caliphate to crash and burn. We don't have to follow it in that crap way. We can do better, can't we?
Right. So therefore, it sounds as the Quran, just like the Abrahamic God, it's just that thing there. Um, but it's just up to you. It's just like an abstract thought, and depending on an idea, and then depending on how strong you are and your longevity, you define what that entity is. Just because you're stronger, and you say, yeah, we define what the Abrahamic God is because we've been around longest and we got the best weapons. So you must accept our interpretation or construction of the
So
Abrahamic God.
doesn't it kind of seem as if it is a mafia like agenda with Islam for sure? It does seem that way to me because they're all arguing over everything. They've seemed to have stolen these past scriptures and just replaced it with other same characters but different results and different stories. And then they have their own laws, so you have to go walk over to this guy because he's your boss now or something, and he owns the whole town, and if you don't do what he says, he's going to cut off your hand or something. To
Yeah,
me, it's just I don't know if you guys. That's kind of where I'm.
100%. Yeah, the Pope is basically the Godfather. I mean, the Godfather, the movie. That's it. That's the Pope, isn't it? The Pope is the
Well,
Godfather.
the Pope, that's a different story. I mean, because what I'm talking specifically with Islam, it's like there's verses. Okay, so you have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and supposedly Isaac is this. That's the blessing goes through Isaac, right? And then in the Quran, it's uh, a different genealogy.
Ishmael.
Ishmael, yeah. So then, but then there are other verses, and I see why
It
they would
doesn't
want to do
matter. It
something.
does none of this matters. It's stupid shit, right? What's your
But it
problem
does.
with it, Dub?
Okay, but the problem is you can say something like that, and you can try to bury your head in the sand, but it is a problem that will not go away.
What
So it
is
needs
the
to be
problem?
addressed.
What's the problem, Dub?
So something like the UK, right? It's kind of being overrun by people who are not from there, and they are just dominating, as far as I can see. So
Yeah,
that's a
and you're
problem.
American, and you have plenty of immigrants too, right?
Yes.
Okay, so where are your immigrants from?
Our immigrants are from all over the place. Specifically, if you could be talking about, I guess there's a place in Michigan or something like that, Dearborn, we have a huge problem there. But what I'm trying to say is, if you just bury your head in the sand and
I'm not
say,
burying
"Oh,
my
well,
head in
it's
the
all just,"
sand. So what you're
no,
saying is,
hold on. Like, I'm not trying to like be a troll or anything here, get an emotional response from you. I'm trying to,
yeah,
if
please
you
get
just
to the point quickly, please.
Yes, if you just turn your head the other way and pretend that it's not an issue that needs to be addressed, you're in big trouble.
What are you referring to? Immigration?
Well, no, I'm referring to the fact that you basically say it's all fairy tales and it doesn't matter.
I'm,
You see?
so I'm saying it's easier to just look at the rules and say these are the rules I'd rather obey compared to the other lot. And I'm saying There's a Torah, it's for Jews, and there's a Koran, it's for Gentiles. So what's the problem? You Christian?
And yeah, I'm Christian, so
Yeah.
the
So
Quran.
you're an idolater, right? You
No,
worship Jesus, right? You worship Jesus
yeah,
as
okay.
God, which is
It's fine
stupid, right?
if you want to go there, but now we're
Yeah, I want to
sidetracking
go
from
there
the main
because I'm saying
conversation.
it's stupid and it's idolatry and it's forbidden by God. But if you want to carry on, and you're not even a Christian country, right? America's not a Christian country, so why are you arguing about God with us? Do
I'm not
you want to
arguing.
be a Christian nationalist? Do you want to be a Christian
Okay.
republic?
Did you want to go on, or would you like me to respond? Come on, man.
Okay, what is your point?
The point is, as you said, something to the fact of they're all just fairy tales, anyways. But the fact of the matter is, in reality, if you think that way and you just want to turn your head away and not pay attention to it, you're going to get taken over. I think that's like pretty plain and simple. Those are facts, right? Can we
Yes,
agree there?
so I'm saying
Okay.
because the West does not have a religion, it's being taken over by people who have a religion. So people in the West are always complaining about the Jews, complaining about the Muslims, right? So what's your
Hmm.
problem? You don't really believe in your religion. You don't. You don't really even believe in God.
Hold on.
It's just a, oh, well, I'm just
Whoever
a Christian,
Okay,
and
whoever said that, don't troll me right now. You're looking for like an emotional response, and you're not going to get one. However, the fact remains, actually, England is supposedly a Christian country, is it not?
yes, but
Well,
it's only nominally Christian because most British people, they don't take it seriously at all. They don't believe in God. They
I
certainly don't
think
believe Jesus is God.
yeah, the real temples. I think the God. I think that you can tell who God is by the worshippers and the temple where they worship. Gives you an insight of where the God is. So with the Jews, you'll see them worshiping their idea of God when you go to their um oh, what do they call it again?
Synagogue.
Synagogue. That's right. And then the Muslims you'll see when you go to their and so on and so on. So here's my challenge. I'm saying that all of the Abrahamic faiths have been taken over by another faith, and that faith, the temples are the banks. So when you go to a bank, there's rituals, to put money in and take money out. Your ID it's got to be very clear and so on.
Okay,
And
they
so
worship Mammon. We get the point. Now, Dub, what do you mean by Abrahamic religions as a fabrication? Are you a
Well,
neo-pagan?
I mean, he was kind of getting at a good point right there. Let me
He's
add to
just saying
that just a
everybody
little bit.
loves money and they worship Mammon. Okay, I get
Hold
it.
on, no. Okay, hold on. Can you not cut me off, please? I know you guys own the channel, whatever. Whoever's the channel owner is
Just
that.
get to
But
the
I'm trying.
point, right? Get to the
I,
point.
I'm
Don't
I'm
complain.
trying. Unfortunately, I cannot snap my fingers, and you automatically just obtain it in your brain. All right,
Get to the
slow down.
fucking point.
Ah, well, the point is this. Okay, so it's interesting because he's saying that these places are just collecting money and things like that, and maybe there is a sense of a mafia type uh, um, organization within a Jewish community. Oh, they only want to deal with Jews. They're only going to do business with other Jews until they gain a certain
Okay,
amount, and then they're like,
it's the Jews again,
we
right?
have a
Okay, so the
monopoly.
Jews are
Hold on.
all
Can you
powerful,
please?
and you can't
Can
do
you please
anything
fucking
about it
hold
because of
on
the
for a
bankers.
second? Can you stop acting like a cunt and just hold on for a second, okay?
Get to the
So
fucking point. You're
in
blaming the
Islam,
Jews
it's
again,
kind
right?
of
You're
like,
blaming the
hold
Jews, yeah?
on, quit being a cunt.
Hold on. You can't get to my
come on, man,
point.
you two.
All right, so
Let's use the
it's
word
kind of the
Okay,
same.
civilization.
we
So
get it. He
listen,
blames the Jews. He blames the Jews, right?
Give him a chance to do it. Then. Let's hear him do it. Let's hear if he's going to
He
do it.
just said Jews. He just said blah, blah, blah. The Jews only do business with each other. He sounds a bit stupid, to be honest. oh, I still want to be Christian, even though Christianity has, not protected me against those Jews and Muslims.
Right. Okay.
And,
You've
and
heard
that's
that
it. And
before.
maybe um,
Right.
So ultimately, you need to choose a religion to protect you from the other people with a religion, right? So if you can't beat them, you have to join them, unless you want to, come up with something stupid like neo-paganism. And the really stupid thing about neo-pagans is that you ask them, so what's your pagan pantheon, and they can never tell you. It's like, no, we hate Jews, so we reject Judaism. We hate Muslims, so we reject Islam. Oh, and we reject Christianity because Christians worship a Jew. So we have to be neo-pagan, but we haven't, come up with anything. Oh, there's the Greek pantheon, but they're all extinct. There's the Nordic pantheon if you want to worship, Odin and Wotan, and it's like, yeah, that's all they have, right?
Actually, you made me think of something when you said, going back to the earlier points in the conversation, we talked about prosperity, and you talked about how the Chinese, they're not having children, and how in the West they're not having children, and fertility has always been an ancient value. If you're being successful and you're being
Of
happy,
course we
you'll
need
be
to.
fertile. Be fertile.
Yeah, because if you don't reproduce, if you don't have the next generation, of course you're going to be dead, right? You're a dead
Right.
civilization. This is it. That's why marriage is
Yeah.
the most important. That's why all religions support marriage. And
Right.
then you ask ourselves, what does it mean to support marriage? It means that you have to forbid any kind of extramarital sex. So we can't be gay, we can't screw around with anyone who isn't our spouse. And that's it. It's as simple as that. But of course, people think, oh, maybe I can get away with cheating. Nobody will notice. Nobody
Yeah.
will notice I have sex with all kinds of people for all kinds of reasons.
Yes. I was thinking then, to the other extreme, so the chasing of mammon as a religion, maybe it makes society infertile. So you're chasing mammon.
The middle classes, right? I think the middle classes think, I don't want to have too many children. I can't afford all the designer clothes I want, all the music lessons, all the private school fees, and all the crap that middle class
Right.
people want. I can't afford it. Well, if you're poor, it's like, well, I think I can just about manage to keep them alive until they reach adulthood. So actually, in a way, poor people have a certain advantage because it's like I'm poor. Nobody expects me to send my kid to, to university or give it piano lessons and
Right.
designer clothes. It's like, just make sure they reach adulthood.
Alive. That's right. Stay alive.
Yeah.
So right. So the chasing of mammon makes the society infertile. And so, in other
Well,
words, if the
plus
bank,
the pill,
pardon,
plus the pill, I mean, even in Iran,
yeah, but
women can
the
just,
pill itself is still the same thing, isn't it? Because
yeah,
why they're
but the
taking the
thing is,
pill? They're taking a pill so that they can still have fun and still get back to work
well,
and
the
make
thing
more
is,
money.
the reason why the birth rate is declining in China, Japan, and Korea is because of the pill, because it would have at least the effect of delaying marriage, right? And then plus, and if you expect women to go to work after they become mothers, then the women will become working mothers and leave their children in creches and nurseries, and they're not looked after very well, and then they
Yes,
have all kind of developmental issues, and the mothers probably feel guilty, and the father's not happy, and they get divorced, and it just gets worse, and then it becomes normalized, right?
right.
Divorce becomes normal, not having that many children becomes normal, and then when you try to get people to have more children, they're not going to do it. unless you change everything.
Right. Okay. So that's one end of the pendulum, as it were, or the of the swing. Yeah. The worship of Mammon, the chasing of Mammon, it renders one infertile one way or the other. Then you got the other extreme. I'm thinking, is there another extreme, the other end? And that means where you can be fertile, have lots of children, but yet be somehow controlled, managed. Like, so you become like animals on a farm. You're just breeding. You're just breeding for the good of those that are managing. And then at the other end, we they're they're not breeding as, as a sacrifice in order to be in the position of managing those that are breeding. So they're working hard and not having children because they want to get into a management position, because they want to be, they're aspiring to sovereignty, they're aspiring to self-control, they're aspiring to control over their own lives, even if it means they have less children. But the aspiration is that they want control over their lives. In
Everybody
contrast,
does. Of course,
pardon?
everybody wants control over their own lives. But I mean, it depends on what you want. Okay, so if you're the government, you want, I don't know, you want people to be reasonably happy at the way you do things. It doesn't matter who we are. It's like, mother, father, teacher, worker. You want people to think, oh yeah, you're doing a good job, right? You should be where you are because you're doing a good job. Thanks. That kind of thing. But if we just thought, am I doing the right thing? It's like, well, are you somehow not happy? Why are you not happy? Maybe you're in an unhappy marriage, you're not happy at school, or whatever. We all have a lot of shit we have to put up with, and maybe there's some people we blame, like that Dubs person, who blames the Jews.
Right.
So I mean, but what is our priority? That's a question, isn't it? So he's American. He thinks it's his right to pursue happiness, life, liberty, and happiness. That's what Americans think is their right to pursue.
Right.
But when we pursue all these things, do we necessarily end up happier? It might, happiness might be, party and casual sex. Parties and casual sex and lots of drugs and drink.
So
That
what
might
do you
not
think?
make us happy in the long term.
I wrote this book called Sin Management, and what I was thinking about, that every society makes rules, and then there has to be a way of managing the breaking of the rules.
Yes, that's
So
why we have the law.
yes, yeah. But in the law, does good law include a scapegoat? Is a scapegoat a necessary part of
No,
good law?
no, because it's a Jewish idea, the scapegoat. Because I mean, what they did was they pretended that the goat was to be sent away and to walk itself off a hill or something, off a cliff, and then
Yeah.
die, right? And carrying the sins of the Jews. It's like, well, it hasn't worked for them. Has it? No, it hasn't. And then
Oh, I
they
don't
go
know.
to New York and they have the scape chicken thing, and people hate them even more for creating a mess, right? So they're not that smart, these people. I don't know what I guess people who don't like them want to make them this formidable enemy. But when you think of what they've been doing, it's not that clever.
Whoa! I want to
We
challenge
should
you.
always
Let me
deal
try.
with the causes, the actual causes of the disease, not complain about the symptoms and ignore the disease, right? I mean, if there's a problem, we should go to the root of it. And
You see, well, let me challenge you a bit on that. You see, the principle of the scapegoat, I think it applies. Like they're saying, like, when they have banking crashes, or if there's or the farmer has to cull. So the process of culling is a way of or the purge. A purge is the same as scapegoating. I'm feeling. I'm just like shooting from the hip here. The process of purification is the same as scapegoating, but in just different formats.
sorry, I don't understand your point. What are you trying to say?
Right. So you said the idea of putting the blame on the scapegoat is very simple. Yeah, it's not clever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying it could be the opposite. The principle of managing a scapegoat in a different can be highly sophisticated in this modern day. So in business, or you even hear about in governments where they say, oh, they could be bringing the immigrants in and then blaming the immigrants, and by blaming the immigrants, it stops people blaming the government.
Yes.
And then they put, yeah. So the idea of the immigrants is really you're manufacturing scapegoats in order to manage the larger society. So it's the same principle. I'm saying it seems stupid on just killing a goat, putting the sins of the community onto a goat, but it's the mathematical principle of having a scapegoat in some form or another in order to effectively manage society.
Well, okay. How about this way? All the anti-immigration parties, they don't support marriage and family values or education, do they? They just want to, the single issue parties, like, we want to leave the EU, we want to kick them out, and that's it. It's like they don't want to talk about anything controversial because they fear disagreeing with each other, so they can only concentrate on, we don't like Jews, do we? We don't like Muslims, do we? We don't like those blacks and the yellows and the browns. We want them out, don't we? And that's it. So I'm just saying, it's not enough. It's not enough, is it?
So if we think secular Quranism and we think of Islam, what would be the scapegoat? Is there a scapegoat
No, I'm
method
just going to say
in
the
Islam?
enemy within. It's we've all kind of, in a way, been responsible for the wrong think that has led to it. It's like it's just easier to blame other people than to correct our own behavior, and there will be people thinking, what are Jews for if we can't blame them?
So who
if we
do
don't like,
Muslims
if we
blame?
can, sorry.
Well, who does Islam blame? Who are the scapegoats of Islam?
Well, they also blame each other, and they also blame Jews and liberals and Western imperialists, and everybody has someone to blame. But it would just be easier if they thought, well, maybe I should correct my own behavior. This is what I'm trying to encourage. But everybody is like they would argue with you until the kingdom come about how much they blame Jews or how much they
Yeah, I
hate
know.
Muslims, rather
Yeah,
than
yeah.
actually address the issue, which is birth rates, right? Because white people the reason why white people are so het up about immigration is that they know that white people are more likely to die feminist, gay, gaily married, or transgender, because their government actually encourages all these things. So they're more likely to be, subject to these influences than any other race in the world. Or even non-whites living in Western countries. They're more likely to, be feminist, gay, gaily married, or transgender than if they were living, in another part of the world. So it affects every race, really. So if we're all complaining, oh, look at these foreigners, they've come to our country, they've taken over, it's because you haven't managed your labor relations, right? The only way you can say we don't need these foreigners anymore is to say we've got our own indigenous workforce and they're up to the job. Nobody even talks in these terms.
Indigenous workforce, right? And then the concept, some people say the concept is that a slave class is necessary for the prosperity of a nation. Some people are of that view.
Well, we know that the Abrahamic God is just forbidding everything left, right, and center, but he never forbade slavery, did he? He forbade usury and breaking the Sabbath and having sex with people not your spouse and all kinds of things, but he just didn't get round to forbidding slavery, did he?
Right, because the slave, slave can be a kind of scapegoat.
Well, I mean, the Quran actually says, we're not going to be mean to slaves. They all have a right to manumission, and if the slave owner does something terrible, he can, free slaves as a form of penance, that stuff like that. And we also know that the Romans had lots of slaves too, and I think their civilization collapsed because they had so many slaves. They decided to completely ignore their indigenous labor force, the plebs, and then they basically just gave them bread and circuses to entertain them, and then they lost their purpose, they lost their skills, they wouldn't join the army, and then the Roman Empire was forced to pay mercenaries. Yeah, and once you pay mercenaries, the mercenaries will know that they can take their time because they have your weapons and your money, and
exactly,
they know you're not capable of fighting, and of course they'll take advantage, and then the Roman Empire fell. So we're just repeating the same mistakes. We think it's all so new and horrible. It's like, it's history repeating itself.
What would you say to the Roman empires, to the Roman leaders, if you could time travel, knowing the things you just said?
I would bring them a copy of the Koran and give it to Constantine and say, isn't that better than, And I'm sure he would agree, oh, wow, that's so much better. I'm not going to even bother with Christianity now. But I mean, okay, I know that once you have the Quran, even if you say you're going to follow it, you might not really follow it, right? A lot of people want to cheat the system and only appear to follow the rules, but not really follow the rules. And I'm saying, well, okay, but so you just have to make sure you know what the rules are, and you live in a society where you can argue about these things. And sadly, for a lot of these Sunnis, they live in kingdoms under absolute monarchs. So that means that these Islamic scholars will be too afraid of giving their real opinion of what they really think about, an interpretation, because, the absolute monarch might, sign a death warrant or something.
Right. So the absolute monarch is the same as a pope. Is the same as a local pope then? Just like the King Henry VIII was the absolute head of the church, correct?
Well, the Pope, I mean, I know the Pope used to command armies, but the point is, he's just a priest. When the Roman Empire was in existence, he was just a priest, right? And priests do not command armies. But I know later they did, after the Roman Empire broke down and everything. But the point is that the priest is just supposed to be this diplomat, who can advise the king and say, well, God says you better not do this bad thing or whatever, right? And the thing is, I'm saying the closest thing to a priest in Islam would be the judiciary, because they're the ones expected to, apply and interpret the law. And, the priesthood is quite opaque because, we don't know what is whispered into the, ears of kings by the priest. But, if anything is about a court case, it's usually held in open court, so people will know, what the parties are arguing about and what was finally decided and what legal reasons given, etc. So it's more transparent than, some priest whispering,
Yes.
things
Yeah.
in the king's
The king.
ear.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Courts. Courts are
unfortunately
better.
for Protestants, it's like you were saying before I forget that the British monarch is also the head of the Church of England. So there's a separation of powers issue, right? You can't mark your own exam paper, right? Because if you did, everybody will say, of course you gave yourself an A+, because you wouldn't be able, you wouldn't say that you failed. Or you would want to say that you did badly. So you have to, there is a saying, no man should be a judge in his own trial, right? Because you won't get an impartial decision.
But then there's the other side to that. Was it this the King Louis XIV says, was it Je suis estat or something like that? I am the
Well, the
state.
state is me.
The state is me. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
L'état c'est moi.
That's it. L'état c'est moi. Yeah. So it that could be the honest way. It could be the honest way to say, look, okay, I am the state, and this state will prosper according to how well I run it. That's it. And if the state falls, it's my fault. So I have total power and total responsibility.
Well,
that's fair, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, obviously somebody should take some responsibility for the decisions that are made in government, but what has been happening for quite a while now is people passing the buck. It's like, who was responsible for British foreign policy between 1914 and 1945, and why were they? What were they doing? Because it was very bad for the British people. If you couldn't say that the biggest achievement of the British was their global empire, then they lost it, right? They lost it after World War II. So something went wrong somewhere, and I would suggest to you that you should pick your fights carefully. And obviously, Britain should not have picked two fights and declared 2 world wars on Germany. But they're not even talking about that now, right?
And so, without a clear sense of responsibility, then things must dissolve.
Well, yes, but you see, it's actually very easy if you have a book of rules, right? So usually, I mean, okay, under the Abrahamic moral system, the idea is that suffering is punishment for sin. So it's like, oh, I'm suffering, I'm having such a terrible time. Somebody will say, it's because you did something wrong, you didn't follow the rules, right? They're going to say that, and then you think, oh, maybe that's true. I'll go through the list of rules that I should have followed, but did not. And that's it. You solve your, and then of course if oh well, I better correct myself. I better follow them when previously I didn't follow them, right? And then you correct yourself, and things should be okay. Isn't that the sensible way to do it?
What if there's a flaw within the rules? The flaw is within the rules.
Well, these rules, I think most people would say the 10 Commandments are pretty uncontroversial, right? And if you
Pretty. See, we put these little words, pretty uncontroversial. When you say, when you swing that word pretty in there, it's like, wait a minute, what parts of the Ten Commandments that is controversial? Why did you put that word pretty in there? Let's dig into that.
well, because I know it's not absolutely uncontroversial, but since I know you come from a Christian background, I don't expect you to say, "Oh, I reject the Ten Commandments." Or perhaps you do. Do you reject the Ten Commandments?
I can't even remember what they are now.
No idolatry, no blasphemy, no murder, no adultery, no theft, no giving of false witness, no bearing false witness, and not envying your neighbor, something like that. I can't remember either. But
The majority of them seems quite obvious rules
yeah,
for society, but which ones do you
I'll read
think
it out
are
for
not
you.
obvious? Which ones do you think? Which ones do you think are questionable? Are there any of those laws you
Well,
think are
okay,
questionable?
idolatry is a problem, right? In the sense that Jews and Muslims think Christians are idolaters.
Right.
So the first one is already, but it's been going on for nearly 2,000 years now. But
If you drop that law, the 9 commandments would be good. You reckon?
well, the thing is, the Quran actually says let's not make too much of a big deal of idolaters. If we're going to kill them, it's not a good idea of encouraging people to convert to Islam if you're going to kill them for not being Muslim, because they're going to just fight you even harder. So there is chapter 2 verse 256. I keep going on about that one because it supports the First Amendment, and it says there is no compulsion in belief. Truth stands clear from error. So it's saying, we'll give people the right to be wrong and say incorrect things, provided, the law of the land is followed, and, if it doesn't, incite crime or isn't defamatory, then you can be wrong. You can express incorrect opinions, because it's probably even a good idea to allow people to express incorrect opinions so that they can be corrected.
Yeah. Or they can see the folly of their ways
Yes.
manifested.
So if we're really confident of our arguments, then we would be prepared to subject them to scrutiny and be prepared to defend them. It's only when people are intellectually insecure and they think they're going to lose the argument that they want to cocoon their precious beliefs in cotton wool. And I'm saying, actually, belief in the Abrahamic God is supremely logical, right? If you look at, the Jews are still around, but everybody hates them and their religion is so horrible, very restrictive. They don't want to even follow them, but still, all these Gentiles, these Christians, these Muslims, they're always blaming the Jews, and they're the ones with the empire. So what's their problem, kind of thing?
They're always blaming the Jews, and they're the ones with the empire. Maybe they're using the Jews as the scapegoat.
Well, I think it's because God,
So it's
if
the
he
same
exists,
principle.
I
The
think
ultimate God requires a scapegoat. As part of, the Jews talked about have the ultimate God. The Abrahamic God is the ultimate God, and part of the rules of successfully worshiping the ultimate God is that you have to have a scapegoat. So the flip side of that is that you turn the whole Jews, all the Jews, into the scapegoat, and then you become the ultimate power.
well, actually, there is nothing in the Old Testament that encourages the use of the scapegoat, and I would say the Quran says, "Be fair even to your enemies." So it wouldn't be fair to scapegoat, even if you don't scapegoat your enemies if they're not responsible for the thing that you're accusing them of. So I think the emphasis on justice is all important. If you can be fair to your enemies, then you're more likely to have a just society than if you think, oh, I can blame them, even though actually I don't think they're to blame, but I'll just do it because I can. It's like kicking the dog, even though because he had a bad day at work and the dog didn't do anything, it wasn't even there, but you kick the dog because you can. Right. But the thing is, you create more problems for yourself, right? If you blame the wrong people, and if you're unfair to them, and then they'll be resentful and they'll be plotting revenge for your injustice towards them. So why can't we just be fair and go to the root of the problem, which is I guess people thinking that they know better, or they can get away with breaking the rules because they're more powerful or richer. But I
But
think,
in war, or let's say that deception is okay in war, correct? As a
yeah,
principle,
all this is fair in love and war. I've heard
right?
the
So
expression.
therefore, if there's an enemy, then using the enemy as a scapegoat is fair in war, correct?
Okay, I don't want, I'm just keen to, blame whatever that is to blame, and not just blame people who aren't really responsible because of the problems that might cause, the resentment that and hatred that you and the desire for vengeance against yourself if you are unjust to people. So I would try to be fair at all times,
But if
as
you're an
much as I
enemy, you're a
can.
follower of Shaitan, correct? You're a follower of the evil one. If you're an enemy, that's why they're choosing to fight you, because you're a follower of the evil one.
Well, we don't know why people fight us. I mean, they fight us because maybe they want something we have. Maybe they're just not very nice people,
Right. So if you have a secular Quran state, it's a good state, righteous state. Anybody who's an enemy of that state is an evil one, correct?
Possibly.
Yeah, because
Uh,
there's laws, there's procedures. The state is righteous. And by
well,
following the
okay,
laws,
I'm not going to put it in that way for diplomatic reasons, right? You could say that anyone who objects to secular Quranism is an Islamophobe, and if you suffer from a phobia, it means that you have an irrational hatred and fear of something, and because you're less rational than me, you lose the argument. That's how I would put it, rather than
right.
declaring enemies. I mean, I would say a lot of our problems are within ourselves. As Muhammad said, the greater jihad is the struggle with oneself.
Right. That's very good, very good. You've thought it out well.
Well, I hope one day you will read the book because it explains it. Well, I like to think it does, even if people don't like my solution. And you might like to try secularquranism.blogspot.com, which is kind of bite-sized leaflets, pamphlets of America under secular Quranism. So I hope that was a worthwhile discussion. I wanted people think I was being. I think Jamiron knows who Dan was, but I don't think I was incorrect in identifying him as a Jew blamer.
Right.
So I don't think and I'm glad I talked to you more.
Now in under secular Quranism, should you have waited for him to start blaming the Jews before before
He did. He
Satan.
did. He did go on about the bankers and the Jews, and that was when I said all I did. But I was trying to. Okay, I know some people, they kind of take a long time to get to the point, and then
But if you're the judge, you know, Claire calls now a judge within a secular Quranist state. You we'd expect you to act the way you would if you were in a position in the secular Quran state, and then your behavior would demonstrate how the state would operate. And I'd imagine the judge would judges, even if they know or they think they know, they allow the evidence to manifest itself
oh,
indisputably.
you think I should have just let him cook? But
Yeah,
I don't
as a
think
judge,
I don't think I'm
you're
incorrect.
the ultimate example of secular Quranism. So people can watch how you behave, how you manage your channel, and then see how a glimpse of how you would manage the state, or how a secular Quranist state would behave by
Yeah,
watching you.
yeah. I think on the whole, I am fair. I do let people say what they mean.
And
And
that's
the
what
thing
you
is,
use a bit
he
of
can
bad
come back
language.
and say, "Oh,
I'm not
you
sure
got
if
me
it's
all
you or
wrong."
he did use the bad language.
It
That's not
actually doesn't
allowed in a
matter.
secular state, no? In
It,
court. This is a court.
I didn't. I wasn't thinking that my channel, my humble channel, is any court of law. But I did give him a fair crack of the whip to get to his
No,
point,
I
and
don't.
then
I
he said Jews
disagree.
and bankers. So
I
you
disagree.
know,
I disagree. But then again, this is your court. You see, the channel is a court. It is a court. Judgments are being made when people come on. You allow them access for a hearing.
yes,
And the
and
title of this title of it is called the Office of Secular Quranism.
mhm.
It's a court. It's a
I
court.
think
You're an
offices where
officer. You're an officer
that.
of secular Quranism. That's what you
Well,
are.
I didn't think I was conducting a trial of him. He's very welcome to, post what he wants to post in the comments afterwards and say, I got it completely wrong about his opinion, and really what he meant to say was whatever. He could do that, but I don't think he even bothered, right? He did post a few comments in in the private chat, which I'm happy to read out. So he said, "You see," okay, he
Oh, in the
says,
private
"So
chat, come on, the private chat, a court. The private chat's not the gallery. This is the Office of Secular Quranism. Public. I'm,
well,
I'm
I'm
shoving
just
you
going
into
to."
courts, into a court,
Well,
and
okay,
you
well,
as a
I
judge.
didn't think I was conducting a court hearing when I let you on. As far as I thought it was a monologue that some people joined. So Dub said, so it seems people constantly look for God. Nothing controversial there. And then he said, it would seem that people know that something is off. Nothing controversial there. Doesn't it seem as if people cannot get along and just identify with a religion to have a reason to be kind to one another? I think he means, it seems, okay, I don't know what it means. Doesn't it seem as if people cannot get along and just identify with a religion to have a reason to be kind to one another? Because I mean, there's always an out group and and an in group, right? The in group are other people who share your values, and the out group are the people who don't. And of course, you're expected to be more supportive of people in your in group. Then he carries on. Oddly enough, the Quran shows you that it is nothing more than a gang, really. Nothing controversial about that. Obviously, you'd expect Muslims to side with Muslims and not be so supportive of non-Muslims. And then he says that's not true at all. So I don't know what he's referring to. Another smut show. What a cunt. 1 minute and I leave. unreal. This chick loves her hero own boys. Okay, see ya. So I've read everything he said. So he shouldn't feel that I didn't really give him a fair crack of the whip. He's always welcome to come back and post in the comments.
Okay.
All right. I think I need to end the stream now. Thank you very
Yes.
much, Mr. IC3. Did you
Yes.
go
Have a good
to? Yes. And will I still see you at Speaker's Corner?
Yeah, I was at Speaker's Corner on Sunday. Actually, it was quite. I was giving the Christians there a run for their money. I was asking them about what does it mean to be born again, because every time they mention the word sin, I said, okay, let's slow this down. Does a born again person, the true Christian, does their life change? And all the Christians say, yes, born again, life changes in old life. I say, okay. So is it true that when you become born again, a true Christian, that you no longer do the sins that you used to do? He says, well, we'll try. I said, oh, hold it. Should, the words try, should, and if started to come in there. I said, so try not to, if, and should not. That means it is possible that you were sinning before you became a Christian and you're born again, and now you're a Christian, you're still sinning.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, what's the
Hello?
difference? Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Sorry, I just thought I'd let someone on. But can I finish your story?
What's the topic on today's discussion?
At the moment, I was just going to finish the point on what does it mean to be born again, and the concept of sin management. So the Christians were saying, yes, you try not to sin, but you can still sin. And then I was quoting scripture, and it says, no, 1 John chapter 3 says that he that is born of God does not commit sin, because the Spirit of God is in him, and it doesn't sin.
Oh, what rubbish! What utter rubbish!
So I would say, well, what's
To be
your
Christian
position?
is to be sinful, because they're already guilty of idolatry and blasphemy, aren't they?
Right. From your position, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. What's it? Muslims are women beating pedophiles. Okay. That's MC Nemesis. Doesn't like Muslims. Doesn't like the Abrahamic faiths. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So have a nice evening. See you
The
again.
same to you.
Okay then. Bye.
Okay. I'll close the stream now, because obviously MC Nemesis on Amazon Music is
Okay.
well, he says rude words about black people and Muslims being wife beaters,
Oh yeah.
and pedophiles and women. Yeah. He said it twice. So he's not very educated. You haven't missed very much.
All right.
I'm off. Thank you everyone for coming.
Bye.
Okay. All right. Bye.